72 hours, not weeks, not days. 72 hours is all that stands between the most powerful military force in human history and the moment its weapons run out. Last night, Iran executed a 47-minute operation that hit 11 separate ammunition supply facilities across 6 countries simultaneously: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, and maritime prepositioning ships anchored in the Gulf of Oman. Every depot, every missile reload station, every munitions warehouse that American Central Command spent 2 decades carefully building across the Persian Gulf region. Gone. Not damaged, not degraded, gone. The distributed network that was specifically designed to be resilient against this kind of attack was defeated in less time than it takes to watch a movie. And right now, 40,000 American service members are still in an active war zone, still being shot at, still intercepting incoming missiles, with a clock above their heads that everyone can see, and nobody on the American side can publicly say out loud, "This is not about strategy anymore. This is not about diplomacy or oil prices or back-channel negotiations. This is about physics, ammunition levels, consumption rates, resupply timelines, and physics does not negotiate." Iran did not stumble into last night's strike. To understand why this operation was so catastrophic, you first have to understand what forward ammunition supply actually is, and why its destruction is categorically different from every other military loss this conflict has produced. For decades, American military doctrine in the Gulf has been built around a concept called pre-positioning, the idea that in a region where conflict escalates faster than transatlantic resupply allows, you store your weapons close to where they will be needed before the need arises, not in warehouses in Texas or Virginia waiting for a crisis to develop. Already there, already maintained, already within hours of the pilots and sailors who need them. This network included precision munition stockpiles, Patriot missile reload stations, anti-radiation missiles, air-to-air missiles, and maritime prepositioning ships that served as the backstop when land-based facilities were damaged. The entire architecture was designed around one core assumption, that no adversary could hit all of it at once. The distributed nature of the network was the defense. Redundancy was the armor. If one node fell, the others absorbed the loss. Iran understood that assumption, and last night, Iran invalidated it completely by hitting every single node in a 47-minute window so tight that the destruction of the first facility produced no warning that changed the defensive posture of any other facility on the list. The specific weapons that were destroyed matter enormously, and each category carries its own consequence for what American forces can and cannot do starting today. Precision-guided munitions, the JDAMs, the small-diameter bombs, the paveway laser-guided weapons that have been the primary instruments of American strikes on Iranian hardened underground facilities, are not the kind of munition that can be manufactured quickly and flown to a base in days. A JDAM guidance kit is a precision electronics assembly with a supply chain measured in months, not weeks. The factory in Missouri that produces them cannot triple output because Congress releases emergency funds. The lead times for the components simply do not bend to political urgency. Air-to-air missiles, the AMRAAMs that give American fighters their beyond visual range kill capability, are now critically low, meaning American pilots can no longer safely engage Iranian interceptors at the standoff distances that kept them outside the reach of Iranian surface-to-air missiles. Closer engagement means more vulnerability. More vulnerability means more losses. And then there are the anti-radiation missiles used by EA-18G Growlers to destroy Iranian radar systems. Without those, the electronic warfare aircraft that have been clearing safe corridors for American strike packages can no longer do their job. The strike aircraft that were flying through suppressed air defense corridors are now flying through active ones. Every weapons category that was lost last night removes a specific layer of protection from American forces still in the fight. Nothing in this ammunition crisis is more immediately dangerous than what is happening to Patriot missile defense right now across the Gulf. For 17 days, Patriot batteries defending American bases, Israeli cities, and Gulf state capitals have been operating at the highest sustained intercept rate in the system's operational history, firing continuously at Iranian ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drone swarms around the clock. Their individual launcher arrays still carry the missiles loaded during their last resupply cycle. When those missiles are expended, and at current intercept rates that happens in days, not weeks, the reload missiles that would normally be waiting 20 miles away in a depot are ash. The Patriot battery does not disappear. Its radar still works. Its command system still processes threat data. Its operators are still at their stations, but the launcher has nothing to fire. A sophisticated missile defense system without interceptors is an expensive antenna, and Iran's current firing rate, reduced from the 350 missile peak of day one but deliberately not zero, is specifically calibrated to continue draining those current loads at a pace that exhausts them before emergency resupply can arrive. Iran is not trying to overwhelm the defense in a single night. Iran is trying to outlast it, and last night's operation dramatically improved Iran's probability of doing exactly that. The question everyone in Washington is asking right now is, why didn't we see this coming? And the answer to that question is more alarming than the ammunition shortage itself. Pre-positioning facilities are not secret. Their general locations are publicly known. They have to be logistically accessible to the bases they serve. But what Iran demonstrated last night was not knowledge of general locations. Iran struck the interior layouts of these facilities with enough precision to maximize destruction of stored inventory rather than simply damaging external structures. That level of targeting detail, knowing which buildings store which weapons, where the highest value inventory is concentrated, what the security rotation looks like, what the loading status was at the specific hour of the strike, that information is not available from satellites or open sources. This is the third major American classified facility, whose destruction in this conflict suggests Iranian intelligence penetration of American military information systems at a level that has not been publicly acknowledged. The E-3 Sentry targeting, the underwater drone base. Now this. 3 facilities, 3 separate intelligence requirements, 3 demonstrations that Iran's targeting data is more current and more detailed than it should be possible for a sanctioned adversary to obtain. The counterintelligence investigation this pattern demands is not optional, because if Iran can read American logistics planning, then the emergency resupply convoy being organized right now is not a solution. It is the next target list. Emergency resupply sounds straightforward until you examine the actual physics of moving enough munitions across an ocean in 72 hours. The primary logistics hubs, Letterkenny Army Depot in Pennsylvania, Crane Army Ammunition Activity in Indiana, McAlester Army Ammunition Plant in Oklahoma, store and maintain the precision weapons American forces need. Getting that inventory to the Gulf requires air or sea transport, and both have severe limitations. A C-17 Globemaster III carries approximately 85 tons. A single Patriot battery reload kit weighs roughly 900 kilograms per missile, and a standard battery has multiple launchers. The airlift capacity required to meaningfully resupply 11 destroyed facilities across 6 countries exceeds what can be redirected from other missions on a 72-hour timeline. Sea transport carries higher volume but takes 21 days through the Suez Canal, which is itself operating under threat conditions, or 30 days around the Cape of Good Hope. The combination of air and sea resupply begins closing the gap in approximately 96 to 120 hours under optimal conditions, meaning it arrives after the window. And those optimal conditions assume the aircraft transiting to Gulf bases are not targeted on approach, that the bases they're landing at remain operational, and that Iran has not also targeted the air corridors and ground infrastructure required to receive and distribute resupply. Iran planned last night's strike knowing every one of these timelines. The 47-minute operation was not designed to destroy ammunition. It was designed to create a window whose duration exceeds the resupply timeline in the best case, and becomes indefinite in the case where Iran continues applying pressure to the logistics chain itself. The domestic political consequences of last night's strike are moving faster than any military response can. The Senate Armed Services Committee was already in open conflict with the administration over the $11.3 billion spent in the first 6 days, the 7 American service members killed, the interceptor shortage, and the 60 aircraft destroyed at Al Udeid. Last night produces a different category of congressional response. Not hearings, not oversight demands, but votes. Meaningfully resupplying 11 destroyed facilities across 6 countries requires emergency appropriations that Congress must pass. The Congress that must pass those appropriations is operating against 90% domestic opposition to this war. The representatives receiving constituent calls about gas prices and grocery bills are this morning receiving calls about the largest single American military loss since Pearl Harbor. The political dynamic is a trap with no clean exit. Supporting the troops means funding the resupply. Funding the resupply means continuing the war. Continuing the war means more losses. More losses means more calls. And the administration is navigating all of this without the narrative protection of a war that is going well, because the story of a war going well just lost 11 facilities in 6 countries in 47 minutes, 3 days after losing 60 aircraft in 4 minutes at Al Udeid. The global economy was already absorbing compounding shocks from 17 days of Gulf conflict. Last night's strike transmits directly into markets with a clarity that no previous single event in this conflict has matched. Markets understand what 72 hours of ammunition means for the forces that were providing whatever residual deterrence remained for Gulf shipping. Oil moved within minutes of confirmation, not the $4 fluctuation that followed last week's ceasefire suggestion, but a movement of a different character, one pricing the closure of the exit door rather than proximity to resolution. Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry is holding its emergency energy security meeting right now, calculating the date at which Japanese industrial consumption must be mandatorily reduced to extend strategic reserves. European gas storage was already on a deteriorating trajectory following Qatari LNG disruptions. And then there is Abqaiq, Saudi Arabia's processing facility that handles 7% of global daily oil supply, the facility that has been conspicuously absent from Iran's target list for 17 days, in a way every analyst has noticed, a deliberate reservation held in strategic reserve. The ammunition that was supposed to intercept a strike on Abqaiq is ash this morning. Iran has not yet made that decision, but the capability that would have deterred or defeated it no longer exists in the way it did 24 hours ago. Closing. 72 hours, 11 facilities, 6 countries, 47 minutes. Those 4 numbers describe what happened last night. But the number that matters most going forward is the one nobody in Washington can say publicly. The count of missiles remaining in every launcher across the Gulf and the hours left before those launchers go empty. The American military is not defeated. It is not broken. Its platforms are sophisticated, its personnel are professional, its commanders are capable. But capability without ammunition is a promise that cannot be kept. Every negotiation, every diplomatic back channel, every emergency resupply convoy, every congressional vote happening right now is racing against a clock that Iran set deliberately and that counts in one direction only. The window where American forces can negotiate from a position that still carries operational credibility is 72 hours wide and closing. Iran did not plan last night's operation to win the war. Iran planned it to create this window, visible to every actor, calculable by every government, and expiring at a specific moment that changes the terms of everything that comes after it. The clock does not respond to statements of strength and resolve. It does not wait for a better political moment. It counts. And the question that will define the next 3 days, and possibly the next decade of American military doctrine, is whether what comes when it reaches zero is a negotiating table or something that the phrase most powerful military in human history is no longer sufficient to describe. Sonnet 4.6